that, immediately prior to that, I ran for the United States Senate, and so most of you would remember me from that. My business background is a financial planner. I used to hold 6 different investment licenses. I've also been in real estate, a personal banker, and I'm married to a Main Street American carpet installation contractor. So George and I met when I was 16 going on 17. We have 2 adult children, a wonderful daughter-in-law, and currently a total of 10 grandchildren. So life from time to time can be very busy. I don't need to tell you where we're at in this country because you all know that. You all know that we're on a precipice. You all know that we have a Congress who, amazingly enough, violate their oath of office. And I put the oath of office on the front of my brochure, and I did that when I ran for the Senate. When I looked at that oath, I went, what an amazing thing to do, or to say. And then I'm astonished at how many elected officials break that oath. I'm running against a man who has just started his 30th year, and I do not say his name, especially when I'm recording this because it's going to go on my website. We've got to make a change, and we know that. With my background in financial planning and budgeting and helping everyday Main Street Americans get their financial houses back in order and get out of debt, we can take exactly those same ideas and take them to Washington, D.C. There's no difference. But the left and those who want to keep spending your hard-earned money and my children's and eventually my grandchildren's hard-earned money, they say, no, you cannot run the government like a household budget. Well, yes, you can. You have money coming in. You have money that has to go out. We all know that the federal government has overreached what their constitutional duty is. So when I get to Washington, D.C., my team and I will review every bill. And it has to pass my 3-way test. And that is my promise that's also in my brochure. Number 1, is that bill congruent with the original intent of what the founders meant when they wrote that Constitution? It's important that we understand what the meanings of the words were back then, over 200 years ago, not what they mean today. It is not a living, breathing document, with the exception of being able to add amendments to it according to what the Constitution says. So if any bill comes up that is outside the purview of what the House is supposed to vote on, it's going to be an absolutely no vote. We've got to start pulling back. Number 2, is it free from pork barrel spending and unrelated projects? Let's get back to single issue bills. No more of this gut and stuff that happens at all levels of government. No more of this, I'm going to stick in there a bridge to nowhere that the citizens don't want. And finally, is the bill aligned with constitutional, conservative, fiscal, social ideals? So every bill has to pass that muster. That means I'm going to be voting a lot of no votes. But I believe that I'm one of many people that are going to end up in Washington, D.C. that are going to come in with those same kinds of attitudes. $19 trillion in debt, we can't even fathom the number. Projections are going to keep on going, but the total unfunded liabilities, they say, are over $200 trillion. And what are those unfunded liabilities? Social Security, federal pensions, Medicare. It's time that we make a change. And I know that I have got what it takes, and I want to speak real quickly. How are we going to win? Because that's the one question everybody asks. Who in here knows the number 1 voting bloc that is not voting? Do you know who it is? They're the disenfranchised voters. They're the evangelical Christians. They stopped voting. Why? Because we keep putting moderate candidates up, and they will not vote for a moderate candidate. I am far from being moderate. I am socially and fiscally conservative. I am 100% pro-life. I'm going to ask you to ask those people that you know that stopped voting to please vote. Because every time they don't vote, the one person they don't want to see get elected, they just gave them 2 votes. So a no vote is equal to 2 for the one you don't want. So please talk to your friends, talk to your family, let them know that their vote is important and I need their vote. So I will take any questions that you have. Thank you. Yes?
I know a lot of people have stopped voting on the presidential election because of the electoral votes. Is there a way to go back to popular votes, or are we going to have to stay with electoral?
I would stick with the electoral vote, and there's a reason for that. The big states would run it, and we would have zero voice at that point.
We don't anyway.
We do have a voice.
In Oregon, the election for president's already been decided before they even closed the polls here.
The networks have made an agreement, they did it several years ago, that they would not release the numbers. In fact, a lot of states have started going to early voting. In Oregon, because we have vote by mail, we can vote early. So we can vote 2 weeks before the polls even come close to being closed. So even though it may not seem it, our vote does count. And they're even saying this year that they really feel that our 7 electoral votes could very well come into play this year. So
I try and tell them that it's not the presidential that we should be worried about. We should be worried about our local and our federal.
Absolutely. Yes, and we do. We need to be voting. We need to know who we're voting for, including judges. Any other questions? I know there are some questions on the table. Yes?
You said 7 delegates. Are those a winner-take-all state? Or did I hear that in the national?
I should know this, but yeah, we're winner.
Okay.
They would all that would be after the state capitol. All 7 submitted after the election is over.
It's been my view that the evangelical churches, they have a shepherd and sheep. The shepherds and the board of directors in the churches are so afraid of losing their 501c3 donation status that they don't bother and educate themselves as to what they can say, because the people are followers. And so what might be an open range of educational efforts would be to those pastors that are so afraid to say anything.
Thank you, Lou. This has been something that's been on my heart. In fact, yesterday morning as I was driving to church, I went, I think I'm going to write a bill that overturns the Johnson Amendment. So this happened when Johnson was running for re-election in Texas. And the churches were speaking out against him because he was, in their view, not a very moral man. So he slipped in on a bill that 501c3 nonprofits could no longer support or endorse a candidate. Or if they did, they would lose their tax status. Now, there's a problem with that bill, or with that amendment. It's a violation of the First Amendment, right there, straight out. Our First Amendment guarantees us freedom of religion and freedom of speech. So that needs to be changed. But number 2, even more importantly, and this is a question that I've asked, are pastors more afraid of man's law or God? I would hope that they're a little bit more afraid of God. But they can, if they're really concerned and they're worried until we get a bill like that passed. They can say, in my example, in my case, there's 2 candidates running for the same seat. One is pro-life, pro-traditional family, is a constitutionalist, studies the Constitution, believes the Constitution means what the Constitution says. The other is pro-choice, supports Planned Parenthood, supports non-traditional family, claims that he's not a constitutional scholar, and believes that any rule that they want to have made should be made. Now, you should be voting your social conscience.
That's right.
And so they can say that without ever endorsing or not endorsing a candidate. And so talk to your pastors. I have actually been invited to speak in churches before during their Sunday morning service. And it's a lot of fun to do. So anyway, thank you all very much. I do have my candidate statement petition. If you've not signed it, and if you do not live in Adair Village or North Albany, you're in the 4th Congressional District. If you live in Adair Village, that is in the 5th Congressional District, and you cannot sign my petition. So my name is Rae Perkins, and I need your prayers. A lot of prayers out there, please. I'm traveling in the 2nd largest geographic district of a congressional seat in the state. So your prayers are coveted, and any help that you can give. Thank you.